everybody. Thank you for joining me here for a brief presentation on emotional intelligence. I'll do my best to cover 2.5 years of study in 15 minutes, so hold on, it's going to be a ride. First, I want to give a shout out to Chris for his amazing presentation. In fact, the reason that I started my engineering management adventures was due to an experience I had with my current company, where a most amazing technical person was promoted into the position of director for our department. There was no argument that he would have been the next person in line for the task. However, even though the most senior, he was not the best candidate to manage people. I also have to give praise to this person because he was the person that helped me with my reference letters for Penn State and also helped me negotiate a 50% tuition reimbursement program with the company I work for. A little bit more about my personal journey. I started off in the technical world of automotive and have slowly gained credibility towards my life mission, which hasn't been fully determined yet, but if I can shine a little bit of light and educate those of you that are joining me today, then I would say this time spent together has been a success. Enough about me. I specifically called this slide itinerary because, like I said, we'll be covering a lot, so please buckle your seatbelts and locate the exits in case of an emergency. The first parts of the presentation are going to be covering background information of the studies, which include research of the roles between leaders versus managers. We will discuss the theories of problem solving with Dr. M.J. Curton's Adaption-Innovation theory, which include problem A and problem B. Then we will be able to discuss emotional intelligence, and then I will not be able to share a personal story because of time. If you have zero idea what I've just said in the last 30 seconds, then you've come to the right place. This is Dr. M.J. Curton. Happy guy, obviously an engineer, professor, or scientist of some kind, with the amount of hieroglyphics in the background of this photo. Probably a common scene to many of us, as I assume we are all stemming from engineering background, mine being mechanical engineering. More about Curton and the way his theories are shaping the way engineering managers look at their teams in a minute. Since we are at a conference called Engineering Managers, I feel the necessity to distinguish the difference between the roles of leaders and managers. Depending on our positions, whether it be managing a team or envisioning the future as CEO, the roles between the two can be separated. A couple of examples of management would be hiring, firing, developing, maintaining, monitoring work schedules, and holding people accountable. The leadership is more concerned with envisioning goals and motivation, explaining and teaching. These two gentlemen have the most prevailing theories for leadership versus management. Warren being from the University of Southern California, and John being from the Harvard Business School. From this comparison, we can see that our roles and responsibilities as managers are geared towards the more hands-on ability of leading our teams towards solutions. We are the people that are able to take the vision from our leaders and implement it successfully amongst our teams to produce a successful outcome. Many times, this overly simplistic view becomes increasingly more complicated day by day. In order to explore why the day-by-day operations of managers is difficult, we will utilize the research from the KAI theory, which discusses the problem-solving style of each individual. Each of us as managers solves problems with a different style, and it is important to denote this term as style because it is something that is static throughout the lifetime of a problem solver. It has been found that an individual's problem-solving style will not change over time. In this image, we can see that there is a 128-point gap between the highest innovative score and the highest adaptive score, 96 being the score at the intermediate point. We can also observe that 2/3 of the populations which have been studied fall into the range of 64 adaptive to 112 innovative, which is a 48-point gap. Just to give some examples of the types of problems that are commonly solved by either of the spectrum, we can analyze the occupation type with Adaption-Innovation score. The research also concludes that a small gap of 5 to 10 points between group average scores can cause problems over time, and 20 points difference between groups can lead to communication problems. Now, this is just considering the mean score of the team. This could consist of the entire spectrum of people in different densities on the team. Looking at the individuals, 15-point difference between problem-solving styles is the point where difficulty arises. So going back to the scale, we previously observed that there is a 43-point gap at the extremes of 2/3 of the population. So a 15-point gap between problem solvers is not an uncommon occurrence. This is also a good time to reiterate that this grading scale is based upon a non-dynamic factor, which is referred to as a person's problem-solving style, meaning that if a person is an adaptive problem solver, they will remain an adaptive problem solver. If a person is an innovative problem solver, they will remain an innovative problem solver. This is merely based upon the person's preferred methods to solve problems and has zero relation to the level or position within a company. So back to our 15-point difference. We will introduce the concept of coping behavior. People are able to adapt to a team or to a particular problem-solving style of a group. But this comes at a cost that is not natural to the normal techniques or style this person would prefer to solve problems with. We can think about this concept alternatively as related to the occupational differences chart. If we were to choose a bank branch manager at the top of the list, showing a mean score towards the adaptive side of the scale, and we put this person into the world of buying fashion, which is completely on the opposite end of the spectrum on the innovative side of problem solving, which makes absolutely zero sense and has no means of calculation or structural basis, this person may survive for some period of time by utilizing coping behavior. However, coping behavior is not sustainable working behavior that can be maintained over time. Eventually, this person will be miserable until they are put into a position that coincides with their natural problem-solving style. Now, this isn't to say that the branch manager wouldn't survive in the fashion industry, but they would be better suited doing the more adaptive tasks in the process, instead of things that do not make sense to their natural problem-solving style. By speculation, this could be along the lines of closing deals and wrapping up odds and ends which could be missed by a more chaotic mind. There are many other tests that could help us with personality, like Myers-Briggs, but the KAI theory targets specifically problem-solving style, which is what we do best at engineering firms, solve problems. This might raise a question or give an idea for somebody in your firm or office that could be a great employee or had success in a previous position, but maybe struggling with a certain problem or task they have recently been given. I would like each of you to take a moment and envision the person in your organization that might be struggling the most right now. And if you can't think of anybody, that person might be you. So that person might look something like this. Now that we can gain a little bit further perspective on this person, that maybe they could be utilizing mostly coping behavior in their work and not solving problems that are most in line with their natural understanding of problem solving. So now we're just going to go to this person, confront them, and tell them to find the problem solving style that best suits their problem, and we're done here, right? I wish it was that easy. Well, that would be nice, and if things were easy, but this person is probably already on edge and has had many thoughts of quitting or finding something else to do with their life. However, this person might be a valuable team member or somebody with long standing that has the ability to help the team achieve success. It is just a matter of giving them the right problem to solve. So by a show of hands, who can tell me which end of the spectrum solves more problems? Adapters? Innovators? Adapters? Actually, Curton's theory teaches us that the proper end of the spectrum to use for a problem is only that which produces the solution for the problem. Now that sounds so elementary that it seems incomplete, but think about it. If we're facing a problem of process and structure, our more adaptive problem solvers would be the best people for the task. And if we are facing a problem of future company direction, this may be tasked to the more future-thinking innovators. We can see perspective of company types. We could easily label Apple, Google, and Zappos as innovative companies. They have work environments that are not typical to engineering firms, and they also allow their employees to express themselves beyond what our grandparents would consider acceptable for a job. But they harness the creativity and innovation of their employees by doing this because they are solving innovative problems. Companies like architects, consulting engineers, and other design-based problem-solving companies will be a bit more focused on structure, as their clients would expect a certain standard for business practice. The anomaly here is that each company requires both adapters and innovators to successfully complete their goals. People at Apple still need to create and test product circuitry for the ideas that have been presented to them. In the construction world, many times there are out-of-the-box problems that have never been encountered on previous jobs, which take extra innovation. With this explanation of company focus, problem solving, we can define this problem as problem A. This is what we refer to as the goal set as the company, a team, or a department. This focus gets convoluted by the fact that mere 15-point difference on the Adaption-Innovation scale can cause struggle, person to person, and 5 to 10 points difference on a team scale can cause struggle. 20 points leading to more extreme issues like communication, which will then need to be corrected by a bridger, which is a person that is able to translate between the two people or teams. But we can talk more about bridgers in a minute. Right now I want to define problem B, which is people-based, conflict that distracts the focus of our original goal. Our original goal being problem A. Our goal as managers is to solve problem B to keep our teams working the most effectively towards problem A. The difficulty with problem B is that when problem B is present, it is the sole focus. Even though there may be progress or seemingly progress on problem A, until problem B is solved, the focus on problem A is tarnished. So we currently have this situation going on in our office in Las Vegas. We have a leak coming from the ceiling, and it was a genius idea of somebody to place a styrofoam cup duct taped in a position with small slits at the bottom which drip the leaking water from the roof into the urinal. Looking at this now, we could speculate how we could have solved this problem differently. Some may say, why didn't you fix the leak in the ceiling first? Some may say, wire hangers would provide more support and stability instead of duct tape. All valid responses, but we are not trying to solve this problem as much as we are trying to analyze the difference in approaches that different problem-solving styles would take for the same problem. The best solution for this problem is the one that gets it solved. In the case of businesses, the measure of performance would be the level of satisfaction of our clients. This is Bob. Bob is an avid do-it-yourselfer. He just so happens to work at our engineering firm and is the person behind the solution to the leaking roof epidemic. Go Bob. In parallel universe, let's say Bob entered this problem-solving space with another engineer, Fred. This guy is actually named Fred. It's amazing what you can find on Google Images. Anyway, Fred is our second problem solver in this scenario. Problem A just became increasingly more difficult because we have added the possibility of problem B into our original problem, problem A. Fred is the man that solves all the most difficult problems in the office. He's the guy that's rarely questioned and can do differential equations in his brain and teaches his children how to do them by memory on napkins at the dinner table. Fred has skills that I do not have in this example. Bob and Fred are now both observing this problem. We will call Fred the highest level adapter and we will call Bob the highest level innovator. With this evaluation, we can assume that there is some conflict over time with their relationship, without a bridger. Fred wants to design a trough system that perfectly fits, molded to the exterior of the urinal, and sleekly drains the water to the bottom of the urinal without impacting the stream of a person that could be utilizing the urinal. Bob says, Fred, that's a great long-term solution, but the plumber will be here on Monday and we won't even have time to implement such a solution to this problem. Bob says, we should just put some rags on the ground, put a bucket or some cups, and it will have the proper solution created on Monday. Fred says, Bob, you always turn me down and I'm tired of you never allowing me to do things the way I want to. Now we've just entered into problem B. The focus is no longer on how to fix the issue at hand. The problem is directly related to the emotions or past experiences these two imperfect humans have had in the past. The ability to solve problem A harmoniously has gone completely out the window until Bob and Fred make amends. In walk our superhero engineering bridger managers, who always make the right choices and never fail. That's not me, by the way. I chose a man and a woman, so you get to take a pick. Anyway, upon observation, our superheroes notice the leak and notice the dilemma between Bob and Fred. Because our bridger is perfect, he or she knows that problem A will not be solved until problem B is properly addressed. But he or she also knows that time is running out and it's only a matter of time before there's a mess to clean up. It's time sensitive and he knows that problem B doesn't get solved properly in this dynamic, could get carried into future problem A's, which hinder the progress of the team. Boom! Emotional intelligence. We can see how scenarios like this play out, maybe in different contexts, but it's not something that is unfamiliar to anybody that has been in a company for any length of time. Some conflicts are building to this moment, some are out in the open, and everybody knows. Whatever the case may be, it is the job of us as engineering managers to become the bridger between all of our problem-solving styles that we may value in our company. This is no easy task, and it may be the reason that sometimes our most technically educated staff lack the skills and ability to become superhero engineering managers or leaders. Per the 1998 article, What Makes a Leader, from the Harvard Business Review, written by Daniel Goleman, the 5 elements that make up emotional intelligence are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill. To caveat our previous lesson of Curton's theory, a person with a high emotional intelligence can lie anywhere on the spectrum from adaptive to innovative. The problem-solving style does not hinder or advance the ability for a person to be emotionally intelligent. Furthermore, the bridger between two persons or two teams does not need to be a certain problem-solving style in order to help resolve the conflict of problem B. The answer to this research leads us to believe that emotional intelligence is something that we, all as managers, can begin to study in ourselves to become better conflict managers in the event of problem B, in a timely and orderly manner to help guide the team back to our original problem, problem A. Emotional intelligence is often termed EQ and is intentionally related to IQ scores. Previously, IQ scores were a rating system where people were measured for the level of intelligence of problem solving. This score was said to be consistent over time or static. The problem with this theory is that people were identified as not being smart and told that and told that they would not be able to change their ability for problem solving, which is debatable. The point we want to focus on here is that EQ is not a static measurement. It is something that can be developed over time and improved. In fact, it is something that should be monitored like a heartbeat, and constant learning should be performed in this arena. EQ, as stated by Daniel Goleman, is a much better measurement of managerial success than IQ, which is why this topic is incredibly important for us as managers. I have to skip this part about the story and this slide. But what that whole thing comes to is there's a new golden rule. The golden rule has now changed from treat people the way that you want to be treated to treating people the way that they want to be treated. This is going to create an emphasis in going beyond ourselves to deliver the best solutions for our organization. This also coincides to the example that Chris gave us about his employee, Scott. I believe his name was Scott, where he had to ride Scott into becoming something greater than he was. That approach may not work for everybody, but it worked for Scott, and Chris knew that. Recap, what we learned today is as managers, we want to become the bridger for our problem-solving teams. The style that is best suited to solve a problem is the style that is best suited for the outcome of the problem. Treat people the way that they want to be treated, and emotional intelligence is a skill that we can build over time. This is the resource information that I used for the presentation, and I am currently exploring the information in the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book. First, I'd like to acknowledge God, my fiance, people that believed in me when I didn't, my family, particularly my grandmother, my dad for providing education, my mom for providing life, all my work history experiences, thank you. NV5 and Hans Grabau for helping me grow, and you, all of you, thank you for helping me, taking the time to learn with me on my adventures. If you have any questions, I can answer them. If you want any more information, or feel free to contact me by any means.
Thank you.
Thank you.